So in one of my recent writing vlogs, I ditched my old outline for a book I had worked very hard on to completely start over with a new outline, completely different story. And I did it because the original story I had outlined, I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't inspired. I didn't want to work on it. It just felt meh. But now, the book that I newly outlined and am newly writing, I feel way more inspired and excited to work on it. And when I said that in one of my writing vlogs, one of you asked how I did it. What was my process to figuring out a new story completely from scratch for something that I felt way more inspired to write? So that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I basically broke it down to 5 questions that I asked myself when I was trying to figure out a story that I would be obsessed with, so my readers would be obsessed with as well. Because let's face it, it shows in your writing if you are in love with your story. The more you as an author love your story, the more your readers will love your story as well. My name is Mandi Lynn. I make weekly videos on the business of being an author, so if that sounds good to you, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a new upload. So let's just jump right into it. Let's ask ourselves the 5 questions that we need to ask so that we can be obsessed with the story concept that we come up with. Question number 1, what do you enjoy reading? It is important to understand what you enjoy reading and why you enjoy reading it, because the same reason you love a story will be the same reason someone else can love a story as well. So for me, I personally just enjoy reading rom-coms. My life can be stressful, and I love rom-coms because 1, who doesn't love a good love story, and 2, when life is stressful, it's good to just read a book that makes you laugh. So I knew that was something that I wanted to capture in my future books that I was writing. So make sure to look at your bookshelf, figure out what books you enjoy reading, and really figure out the reasons why you enjoyed them so much so you can capture that feeling in your books as well. Question number 2, what have you enjoyed that you've written in the past? So I've written quite a few books, and I guess this is a question that you can't ask if you haven't written a book before, but maybe you've written short stories, fan fiction, you get the deal. Like, we've all written something before. What about what you've written before made you really excited to write it? So for my recent series, the Road Trip Snapshot series, I really enjoyed researching and writing about hiking. I personally love hiking, hence why I wrote about it. But Meet Me in the Summit is about a girl who travels across the United States in a VW bus to find herself. And I just thought it was really fun to do all the different research that was necessary to figure out how to write a road trip book. And also, who doesn't love a good road trip? So when I was trying to come up with a new series concept, I knew I couldn't redo the road trip hiking concept all over again, but I knew I could do something similar, which is how I came up with the concept of people going on spring break in college and traveling somewhere and falling in love. We still have that fun travel aspect, but it's not exactly a road trip. I mean, who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do with all the books in the series. Maybe there will be a road trip in there somewhere, but for the first book at least, I'm not really having much of a road trip. Instead, my main character is jumping on a plane to go to Iceland and falling in love. So when it comes to your own stories, make sure to look back at what made you really excited to write them and see how you can include it in future stories without exactly copying the concept. Question number 3, in life, what lights you up? So reading and writing aside, what other hobbies do you have in your life that just make you excited? Again, for me, it was traveling and hiking and all things outdoors. So that's what I incorporated with my past book series, the Road Trip Snapshot series. And it's also what I'm going to be incorporating in my new book series that doesn't have a name yet. But again, I'm incorporating those loves that I have in life, but not in the same exact way. Maybe you like someone who likes to crochet. You could give your main character that as a hobby as well, or maybe something else. They do say write what you know. And the reason why the write what you know is a saying is because it's 1, really easy to write what you know, but 2, the love for the things that you know come across when you write as well. And that's why it works so well when you write what you know. Question number 4, where do all 3 of these things intersect? So you know what you like when it comes to reading, you know what you like when it comes to writing, and you know what you like when it comes to life. Now let's look at one of those lovely little charts and see where all those things overlap. Can you write a book about that? And if you can, that's when you as a writer are going to have a lot of fun. Because all the things you love about writing and reading and life are intersecting in one place and you're writing the book on it. In question number 5, which I'm now realizing is not exactly a question, create a list of universal fantasies. So you guys have heard me talk about a lot now in the past couple of videos, universal fantasies. Universal fantasies is a concept that is in the 7-Figure Fiction book, and I highly recommend you read that book. It'll be linked down below. But basically, universal fantasies are the bread and butter of your book. It's the tidbits of your book that make readers obsessed with it. Now, why are readers obsessed with it? It's because you have these elements of your book that make your main character or the story super, super relatable, or they're living out a fantasy that you yourself wish you could live out. Readers obsess over it because they can so clearly see themselves as the main character of the book because you threw in these universal fantasies. So, for example, we have The Trail to and Me, my latest novel that I published. When I was outlining that book, I used my novel outline planner to outline it. I was filling out the prompts in the planner, and I was just outlining it by story beat. But after I wrote the first draft and did some self-edits on it, I went through chapter by chapter and identified a universal fantasy, at least one universal fantasy, in every single chapter. I wanted to make sure that my book had the bread and butter that made readers obsess over it. And yes, it is possible to include at least one sort of universal fantasy in every single chapter of a book. Let me name off a few universal fantasies that were in The Trail to Me so you can get an idea. We have Flirting with a Stranger, the struggling main character, a classic. We also have Unfamiliar World, Puppy Love, and so many other universal fantasies. I went back in my notebook to see what I identified as the many universal fantasies, and what's really fun when you identify universal fantasies like this, it makes it really easy to market your book, because you can market your book based off of universal fantasies. Like if readers love Puppy Love or readers love Flirting with a Stranger, you can use that as a marketing point when you're trying to sell your book. So that's a little bit farther down the line, but it's definitely a really good idea to think about universal fantasies before you write the book or as you're outlining the book and even as you're editing the book. Just throw in as many universal fantasies as you can. Anyways, that's what I personally did to make me fall in love with my outline, especially when I was feeling really uninspired. And now I'm feeling not only inspired again, but also super, super excited to write this story and publish it. And mind you, I have a baby, so writing it's gonna be a little more difficult, which is a little bit frustrating, but we'll get there. Anyways, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to request topics for future videos as well. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week.